once every 2 years. But you might laugh, what happens in Holland, and most especially Amsterdam on a Monday, will happen in Athens by the Wednesday, and the rest of the world probably by the Friday. People are simply not going to the cinema anymore. You're probably a rather special professional bunch. I asked before we began speaking here who my audience were. Should I pitch the tone of my, I suppose, speech at the level of Wittgenstein or Tarantino? I was told to talk about both, and I'm very happy to do that. But it is interesting, do those who want to be fascinated by Wittgenstein go to the cinema anymore? We certainly know those people who want to be fascinated by Tarantino who go to the cinema. But you know that other idea, and I'm going to mention painting here because painting is very, very important to me, that it is said now that the laptop generation believe that there is no cinema before Tarantino and no painting before Jackson Pollock. Which is a terrible, terrible thing to say, which I certainly hope to try very hard to put right. But it is something I suppose we don't necessarily have to take cognizance of. Let's go back to my original premise. I think with interactivity, because I can't really complain that you're a cinema audience, you're not sitting in a cinema, but look what we've done here. What are the three characteristics of watching a feature film? First of all, the audience is sitting in the dark. Now, what on earth are you doing sitting in the dark? Man is not a nocturnal animal. Secondly, and we've reproduced the situation here, in a cinema audience, you're all looking at one screen. You're certainly looking in one direction, which means that 2/3 of the world is behind your head. And if you're watching a 120-minute long feature film, you're supposedly going to have to stay still for those 120 minutes, and probably in your bed last night you were not remotely still, even though you were asleep for 120 minutes. So sitting in the dark, looking in one direction, being absolutely still, what a ridiculous set of circumstances that we've now been practicing for 114 years, if you believe cinema was invented in 1895. There is evidence that these practices, of course, are breaking up all over the world. And one of the reasons for this, of course, is this whole notion of interactivity. Now, if you're a member of the laptop generation, you're going to be very used to handling the notions of choice. You're going to be very, very aware of your association with the product. I suppose now, not only alongside your laptop, all of you have got a mobile phone, which, as well as being able to contact you with your grandmother, will probably be able to iron a shirt and catch you a zebra as well. Phones are very irritating now, aren't they? The last function is actually to communicate across the ether. There seem to be so many other requisites of why you buy a mobile phone. And I suppose most of you probably have camcorders of some description. Fairly sophisticated instruments whereby you can record in picture and sound the world around you. So if you're armed with these three things, a laptop, a mobile phone and a camera recorder, you're all set to be absolute, totally in control filmmakers. If that is on offer, why worry about Hollywood? Your own life can be far more relevant to a cinematic situation. And that, of course, is what's happening all over the world. This notion of being a manufacturer of cinema, however rudimentary, however local, however personal, is becoming increasingly so important that very largely the laptop generation are not interested in what filmmakers are making anymore, are not interested in coming to film festivals like this one at Athens, because they're increasingly becoming more and more and more irrelevant. Well, since the youngest person in the audience is 20 and there's nobody in the audience age 67, we're talking about a slice of people, probably the filmmaking habit is still hanging on in a nostalgic sense. Maybe you're not all ready yet for throwing away the darkness, looking in one direction and sitting still for 120 minutes. But be sure, be absolutely certain that if you do believe that, your days are numbered. Let me give you an example. Is there anybody in the room who still actively looks at silent cinema? I know there's probably some academics here and some film archivists. There's one bold, two bold, three, any more? Not very many. How many people in the room? There must